Hello, everyone, yet again. So great. The topic for this panel discussion is redefining marketing matrix for a digital-first world. We got a very diverse panel today, comprising of Mihir, Wakharkar. He's the business head online D2C Rebel Foods, which is formerly, probably all of us will know, Fashos. You know, it's the world's largest internet restaurant company. Rather a QSR, I would say, or rather a cloud kitchen with more than 25 plus own brands. Like we guys would have heard about Bhairo's Biryani, Oven Story, Fashos, Eat Shore. He's the man behind all the magic that happens. Great. We've got Nishant. He's the VP and head of marketing at Kaya Limited. He's actually my, in his previous avatar, he was my client as well. So a very old friend. Kai is a hybrid online-offline model with more than 100 clinics in 4+ countries across 30 cities. And they handled about more than 600 plus SKUs of services and product. So very, very diverse portfolio. And then last but not the least, we've got Sanket Narkar. He's the Chief Marketing Officer of Physics Wallah. It's the EdTech giant that we all know. The LinkedIn page tells me that the Physics Wallah app has been downloaded more than 3 crore times, and the company's got more than 55 lakh paid students. So great. Let's kickstart the power-packed panel discussion. So today there are two different aspects of marketing. You know, we call it the art and the science of marketing. While the art angle of it is the creative angle of communication, the science angle of it, apart from, say, segmentation, targeting, planning, buying, has a very important angle called measurement, which enables every single marketer to make the right decision to ensure brands make the right marketing decisions, therefore. So today we should discuss with this esteemed panel of judges what's worked best for them. You know, after all, from a measurement perspective, fiercely competitive country like India has a mindset of, kitna deti hai mindset, the Maruti ad analogy. So let us get started with my first question. And I like to open this question to all the panelists. So in a digital first world, we all know indeed it's happening. I mentioned in my presentation also that there are over 900 million people being online in India. And with customers being spoiled for choices and we all being in the customer experience era, in such a scenario, what do you think should be an organization's objective and strategy towards marketing measurement? And what are the key metrics that you measure? So anybody can pick it up.
So as you rightly said, right, we're moving towards being digital first. So before moving into what metrics or how do we measure, I'd just like to highlight what has changed, in my opinion. So what technically has changed is there is a lot of instrumentation that comes into the play as soon as you go digital. So I think measurement has got a lot more complex than it was before. We have so many tools, we have so many lines of attribution that you can track at a customer level since we've gone digital. And also what has become is that the journey has become much more complex, much more non-linear. Customer can go back, forth, and eventually purchase. What led to that purchase? A lot of attribution, multi-touch attribution could be done, which was missing earlier. So I think that has made all of this a bit more complex in today's world. So within internet, for example, now from simple earlier times, we had a reach of a newspaper or a TV ad that we used to track and look at what has increased in terms of customer visits or acquisitions. Now we have at a creative level, what is the kind of acquisition cost that you have, what is the lifetime value that you have. things like these are tracked. And further, just before I hand it over to the other panelist, within internet, I think we are now going mobile first, right? So I think one very critical factor that has happened is we need to fight for that space on the mobile, which is a limited for every user. And if that is not used, your app is not anymore on the phone, right? So that again becomes very critical in terms of measurement and tracking. There are different metrics that you need to track for that as well. So I think that has kind of just enhanced the whole complexity of how do we measure our performance in terms of marketing in this digital first world.
I echo what Mihir just said, but I think every touch point that a customer can think of from a brand perspective is a placeholder for you to track. That could be your website, that could be your offline store, that could be a personal DM that an Instagram profile leaves on your brand social media, and it could also be an email that is given back as a feedback. So marketers need to look at the whole crisscross of this mechanism, make sense of it, and then ideally get to that one cohort, which is the North Star of the business. That becomes your pivotal part of any journey. Post that, you start building on other latencies of customer cohorts, right? Who are the repeaters, who are not repeaters, who have been in the system for many times, who have not been in the system for many years, for that matter. So we are an online and an offline business. For us, website metrics matter. For us, contact center metrics matters. For us, how many people without spending money walking into a store matters. And how many people are buying a product in a store versus online is also a metric. So any touch point where a customer can attributedly reach out to a brand is a placeholder to kind of track.
Thanks. I think this was extensive. But from an education standpoint, I think for education, it's mainly the freemium model that you give is mainly content, correct, and academic content. The primary metric in terms of organic and academic content when we ship is first thing which we see is how many students are viewing it. Is the view access higher as compared to teachers, compared to topics, and what is the engagement, right, on that topic, or why that lecture delivered by that teacher. If that is working with us, I think that same organic funnel contributes to the inorganic, the paid funnel, right? And you know, obviously, like when you do paid marketing, there's always CAC or cost per transaction that we closely look at, because education has, like for us, has to be primarily positive at the first acquisition only. Retention is far-fetched, right? Like, can always bet on it if your content is better. But highly organic, so mainly what sort of views are coming in at a video. Mainly our marketing happens on YouTube. We have 100+ channels and we ship about 8,000 hours of content every week. And this is academic content. So checking comments on those and reviewing whether it is working or not are our key primary metrics for, you know, the marketing part.
Great. So circling back to you, Sanket, you've also been at Byju's, and at a point of time, Byju's was one of the biggest advertisers, and we could see the Byju's logo at every nook and corner, in every single lane of the country and every single screen of the country. So let's split the conversation between, the stages of marketing funnel, the upper funnel and the lower funnel. What is more important for a brand? And what should be the approach to marketing measurement to both these stages of customer life cycle?
Actually, there are just not upper funnel, right? I personally think that there are 4 stages. The first one is acquisition stage, where you generate interest and then pull the student to your platform. They may or may not have decided to go ahead with the services, right? But there is some intent. It can be via free, it can be via a discount, right? So first is acquisition. I'm not talking about paid acquisition. I'm talking about sign up, right, into your services. The second layer is engagement. If your product or your service is not great, you would never be able to engage them, right? And you then do multiple things, run Martech and run a lot of trip, connect with them, to engage them, to then move to the third stage, which is conversion, and assume that, you've converted them in some stage or form. The fourth game is retention, right? So I feel there is no one stage which is like having higher priority versus lower priority. I think all of these have equal importance. Now, in some companies, some stages are fixed. For example, Physics Wallah has a top funnel fixed, right? There's massive pull from organic, from YouTube. So top funnel is filled. Now, how do we ensure that students know about the offering? So how do we ensure engagement? How do we ensure that if millions of students are studying, you'll still have only X number of seats, right? So you'll still have some droppers. Now, how do you ensure retention for them? So those are certain things which I think, it is basis company to company, right? So if it's a new startup, maybe none of those stages are solved for you and you have to work all from scratch. But then I feel each stage has a priority and every stage is an important stage.
Absolutely. So, in most of the cases, and you rightly said both of them are important, what I've seen generally when it comes to kind of designing marketing plans, planning marketing plans, both of these stages, upper funnel and lower funnel, are treated very, very differently. While I don't know whether it's the right thing, the wrong thing, but are there any ways that you suggest or that you practice that you link both of them and make the entire equation more effective?
I think, sorry, the best way is to eliminate stages, right? So have low touch point models where a student or a consumer comes onto your platform and then exits with payment. And there is low human interaction required. There is service, they like your service, they pay, and they are out, right? And they're consuming the service. I think that's the best way to, tackle that.
Brilliant. So Nishant, you're in a very different business, which is online and offline. Rather, even Sanket, you are in a similar kind of a setup. It makes things a little more complex. So when your business versus your business, which is pure play, online led kind of a business, how does the equation change when there are customers walking into your stores versus there are touch points on the internet as well? Does the equation of marketing measurement change with this kind of thing, and how does it change, and how should it change?
Right. I'll just flip it a bit for you. See, the thing is that while we'll expect that a lot of people are walking in, that's not the case. Like, people walk in when there's a lot of brand advertisement only at an awareness level, right? Which means there's a lot of mass media that's done. And I've seen in my experience that people purely without any marketing spend which is attributable walk in only then. But for us, or in the past couple of years that I've noticed, is the primary acquisition channel has always been digital. And also going back to the previous question that you said, which is top of the funnel, right? Now, top of the funnel is a placeholder which is very vast. And you have to make sure that you are available everywhere, maybe not there on every point in terms of rank, if I talk about SEO. But you got to be there because that's where you kind of capture the mind share. And that's the easiest and the most effective way without spending a lot of money. But for us, in this format where my acquisition is online, at least as a sign-up or if at a lead form, if I say, but my acquisition or my money paid or deposited actually happens inside the clinic, is the whole ball game, right? So I need to make sure that I have enough number of leads, then qualified leads, then they're being attributed at the right level of the services that we provide, then making sure that these guys come to the clinic, they meet the right doctors, then they are offered the right services, and then finally conversions happens, right? So sadly for me, there aren't a lot of walk-ins because the competition is also fierce and we don't spend a lot on mass media. But we like to keep it more effective by making sure that our marketing dollars are spent in the right manner and they're attributable.
So great, that's a brilliant answer, and that leads to me to pivot to another question. Now the customer is acquired, right? They always say that it is more important to maintain a customer than, or it's cheaper to maintain a customer than acquiring a new customer. So this brings me to the concept of lifetime value. So while I can't say this is a new concept, it's been there. We've all been talking about it. So Mihir, to you, what is your strategy to measure the same, and how do you optimize the same to benefit your business?
Yeah, so, yeah, depending on the industry, I think for us, lifetime value becomes a very critical measure of the quality of users that we are acquiring. Because if you look at a food, the transaction value is low. So how do I gauge whether the number of users that I've got are going to stay back with me, are going to give me value? Because it's a high frequency kind of a product. Kind of a 3 times in a month is frequency that we look at for our D2C app, much higher for Swiggy and Zomato. So it's very important for us to track lifetime value and in fact a derived variable of that, which is lifetime margin. Because it's not just the value, because if you keep giving discounts, maybe you'll get the value, but not the margin, right? So a lifetime value or a lifetime margin for especially a low ticket purchase and a high frequency purchase becomes very critical to track right at the source. Then having that feedback loop to go back and then tweak your acquisition strategy basis these 2 metrics becomes very critical, especially in an industry like us. But I'd like to know more from you guys as well.
Anybody else wants to take this up? Interesting question.
Yeah, I think with EdTech until 2020, 21, LTV was the game, the term for raising all investments, right? Everyone was saying that once I get him in or her in, I will squeeze him or her out until, you know, they higher studies and then all of that. But I think one massive failure that has happened is retention has been a challenge, right? And people want results. In education, people want results. They are joining you only because they either want to crack something, either an exam, or to get a better job, or to get their salary increased, right? If that is not happening, they're not going to stay with you. They're going to try something else. And brand equity plays an important role, because when you've done acquisition via push model, the student is not going to stay with you if you're not going to deliver those results, right? Forget staying with you. They may not utilize you after a month, right? So utilization of your product or service will be questioned. So LTV earlier was the key metric where, you know, all investments were raised and then it failed. And then came a couple other edtechs where they said that my acquisition is not going to be positive just at LTV, but at the first acquisition, when I'm first acquiring the student, correct? And if I provide them great service, which is in future, I do not see it right now, right? Like, I provide them great service, they will stay with me. I can't catch hold of them. It is not something where, you know, you do a transaction every 3 days, every week, every month. It is a once in 6 months, once in a year, once in 2 years deal, right? Would you even think of, you know, that brand? After 2 years, we don't know which other new brands would come in, right? So for education, it was getting someone positive metrics and then, you know, figuring out whether he or she may stay. Retention, again, like I said, for education is a, yeah.
I just add, I think for my co-panelist, LTV could be a part, while both are, you know, for him it works, whether it's worked out and if he's cracked the code or not. For you, it's food repetitiveness. But I think for you guys, LTV could be one part which becomes in a referral format. Luckily, in this panel, I think I'm from the only industry where there's a lot of LTV because I have a lot of services, and it's a medical backed sort of an environment for us. So once we get somebody in, we know what the person is going through, and we can predict, right? And that's the science of what a doctor can do versus a machine can do, right? Or say an AI can do. At least the doctors knows what are the changes the person is going to go through, whether it's skin, its hair, or its body. And then we are able to build our LTVs. And for us, we have a huge repeat rate, not only because there are a lot of sessions that are sold in one, say, service, but it's also because a lot of effectiveness is only derived after a certain set of regimes are followed. Hence, for us, LTVs are measured very closely.
Great, great. So this gets me to my next follow-up question, because now we'll be pivoting towards the lowest stage in the funnel, which is advocacy, right? Awareness, consideration, acquisition, and now you've acquired, and now people are talking about you. You know, with like I mentioned in my session as well, that you know, it is the power of content creation has been given in the hands of an Aam Aadmi. So today we've got our mobile phones. There is social media, which is in the business of inducing dopamine in our brain. So the easiest thing to express our customer experience is to go online and either speak positive, negative, rant about a brand. So this gets me to the topic of you know, online reputation management or online response management or sentiment measurement or sentiment analysis. This is fairly these terms are fairly a new kid on the block, and it's very different than measuring, say, a brand perception via brand track, etc., etc. So how important do you feel is it to be able to effectively measure online reputation, brand sentiment, and once effectively measured, how does one use the same to the benefit of the brand?
I think brilliant question, and you and I both have worked on this very closely. But I think, you know, as you said, advocacy is a big thing, and I was also mentioning about referrals, which I'll turn back to in a bit. But online advocacy is very easy, it's controllable, and it's also measurable. The fact that we have a tool called Google Business Profile, or GMBs, that as they were known earlier, the more reviews you generate, which are positive and it can be controlled as well, the more inflow of calls as a subset you'll get, besides at the top funnel that you'll have more searches, right? So ORM becomes very important, not only from an internal perspective of checking a sentiment. When I talk about sentiment, it could be a message or an NPS survey that's come back, right? You gotta listen to that customer, you gotta go back to them, what went wrong, what went right. If something went right, then you know you need to plug in a referral scheme over there, or you need to give him another thing which gives an extra discount or something which is a sweetener. But if it has gone wrong, you have to be very, very cognizant of the fact that this is the problem area for this brand and for this particular service. You have to fix it right there. Hence, having a very, 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 very sharp lens on this ORM piece becomes very imperative, right? You would have obviously heard of a lot of brands where people have said a lot of things, right? You've always seen that, you know, in flights, somebody gets a lizard in a food, sort of in the in-flight food, right? So that is a part of ORM. You got to manage it, you got to fix it. But you also have to anticipate these things as well. It's just not about managing. You just don't have to think of it from a lens of this can go wrong and what will be your mechanism. You have to anticipate that the power of communication and advocacy today is with customers. And they will speak because they're paying money. They're not going to be, you know, they'll not have any aberrations on not speaking out. They will go anywhere and write about you. It could be Just Dial, it could be GMVs, it could also be mouth shuts of the world. So you got to manage it very, very closely.
So, Mihir, in your industry also, this thing is, I think, very, very, because you're in the food industry. You know, it's in this industry, it is the most common for customers to impulsively comment. And nowadays, commenting is not talking amongst friends. It's talking amongst in front of everyone, which is going and commenting on social media. It can kind of make or break a brand. So how do you guys kind of tackle this? How do you use it to your benefit, rather?
So I think it starts with acknowledging that it is going to happen. Like nobody's perfect. Goof ups are going to happen. Obviously, you try to restrict them, but nobody's perfect, and you've got to admit that goof ups will happen. So once you admit that, or once you are ready for it, you will have a mechanism to address those scenarios. So, for example, in food, right, there are so many goof ups that happen. A wrong item may get delivered to a customer. A veg, non-veg goof up might happen. So these things are then called out on not just Google's, but on the social medias of the world. So how do you then, first of all, show that empathy to the user that, we goofed up. It's okay, you're right. Here is something that, as a token of apology from our end. And how do we then ensure that it doesn't happen again? So something that we've come up with is, we've got a tagging of customers who have went through a bad experience, and right from the kitchen to the call center, if they reach out to us again, to every touch point to the rider who will deliver the food to them, they are aware that this customer had a bad experience in the previous order. If they are coming back, we have to go the extra mile to kind of get it right this time. So that is one thing we do. The other thing that we try doing, and I'm saying this try because it's still evolving and we're still trying to master it, is how do you get more positive content out there? How do you engage with your customers? Because there's going to be negative content when you goof up, and it's going to be in much more quantum than, let's say, when you do things right and there'll be one positive content, right? So how do you get that positive content out there to kind of submerge these negative contents? Because eventually this is the old school word of mouth, which is now translated into this ORM piece, right? So I think these are the two things that we kind of look at doing.
Great. I can see that red flag over there. There's bell which is gone, and there's a signal which has been given to me. In case if we have time, I will open the floor for questions, or as you say so.
Yeah, hi. This question is for Sanket. Sanket, you mentioned the offline versus push it being sold versus the usage and retention, right? Now, do you have any statistics in terms of what is the usage and retention for customers which are sold to versus customers which are like inbound and which come online and purchase by themselves? Do you track those kind of?
So you want the difference between between
Where there
which?
is a push, by sales team to kind of sell something on field, like Byju's used to do, versus, customers which are inbound and they buy by themselves. So is there a usage and retention matrix that you track based is that?
Yeah, so I've worked in all those scenarios, right, where there's a push and a pull. At PW, we don't have a sales team. It's all inbound, and there's like I said, right, comes in and then they directly. In fact, we have a small 300-member calling team, and this team especially calls in students who have clicked on Pay Now and have gone to the PG, but payment have failed. Calling is mainly done to understand like what are the issues, and then can those be resolved, right? And mainly the mandate given by the founder is that at no given circumstances, there will be any sort of push sales. In fact, if a student says, I'm not interested, you offer them free courses, and then you tell them if you need more help, you can reach out to us. So it's a strict mandate. People have been terminated if they've tried push sales, right? So with PW, a couple of metrics that we measure is one, teacher rating. What if on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 being the best, what do you think is a great teacher rating in the industry, according to you guys? Is it 4? Is it 3? What is it? What would you consider as great teacher rating? On a scale of 1 to 5, what would it be? 4? 4, 4.5? For us, anything below 4.8 is considered as bad. Correct? So one is teacher rating. Second is how many students are viewing the class. Third, after every class, we give daily practice, DPPs, daily practice your problems, right? And then how many of them have solved it? Then we do test series. Basis all of this, we already know who is going to make it, who's going to crack NEET, who's going to crack JEE, and which is how we have all our, toppers already coming in while the results are being out, because we have all of that data, right? Now, that is someone who's come in, who has intent, high intent, and is taking the course, right? In my previous avatars, I would not say Baiju, but all those other companies, I have seen that since it is not so basically for students, right? You need to have motivation and you need to have monitoring. Generally with products which are self-paced or self-learning, there is no motivation, right? So usage would range anywhere between 1 week to 1 month, right? And then it's just lying down on your drawing room, right? So it all depends on the intent, and it's a FOMO, right? That, hey, he has it, I should also take it. But then you identify the usage, or you identify, okay, whether it's working or not in like a month or two. Meanwhile, the refund period has gone and, you're stuck with it for life. So, yeah.
Thank you for that
Hope
question.
I've answered your question.
Yes, thank you for that question, sir, and thank you so much to you for that specific answer. And give a huge round of applause to all of them once again, ladies and gentlemen. The final panel discussion of the summit. Thank you so much. I'll request all of you to kindly please come forward and pose for a group photograph. And we also have the gift hampers ready for all of you.